Hi, everybody. Many of us remember the thrill of driving up to the Catskills on the Quickway and getting excited by seeing all the billboards listing all the big name entertainers, at least those of us who were born in New York. Bob Hope, Milton Berle, Donna Summers, Tony Bennett, Sammy Davis Jr., Stephen Edie, Tom Jones, Ringo Starr, Bette Midler, Willie Nelson, Eddie Fisher, Connie Francis, Milton Berle, and on and on and on and on, just to name a few, who were all booked by my friend who is joining me, along with his partner, Arnold Graham and Howard Rapp, and all these great stars appeared in the hotels of the Catskill Mountains. Wow. I'll just name a few: the Concord, Grossinger, Browns. Actually, I have a souvenir. Arnold, I'm going to show you something you won't believe. Look at this. Can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Wow.
What is that?
Charles and Lillian Brown's
It's a trash
can.
Can.
that
Mrs.
I
Brown.
stole. I didn't steal towels. I stole this.
That's great.
That's funny.
That's great.
Yeah, at Brown's. It's got to be, gosh, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago, and I've kept it in my office ever since. So I am so happy to have my friend Arnold with me, and sitting next to him is a young lady who happens to be his partner now, and her name is Alison Chaplin. And Alison is a talent manager, a talent agent, and a partner with Arnold and Howie Rapp in NYK Productions. So my dear friends, thank you so much for being here with me and reminiscing. And they're joining me actually at a very difficult time for them. They're joining me from Florida. It's the 31st of July, last day in July 2020, during a double whammy invading your state: the corona epidemic and the approach of hurricane. So we all say it is
Isaias.
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Isaiah. You're having.
Just bizarre. Everything here is backwards. Everything.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you, Mikey?
Coping like everybody else. Same thing I did yesterday, I'm doing today, and I'll do tomorrow, and probably for a long time to come. And passing the time joyfully, doing what I'm doing right now with you guys, meeting virtually my dear friends, because we can't do it in person. So, and I can't fly to Florida and perform for you, Alison, because I can't. Nobody can.
I just want you to know we are adhering to the rules. It's just that since this epidemic has started, Howie and Arnold and myself, we live in different subdivisions close by. And we are the only, between Dick and myself, that's my other half, and Arnold's sister and Howie's wife, the six of us have shared dinners every week, thank God, for the last 5 months. So we know we've all been COVID tested and we know exactly where we go. So that's why, please excuse us for being so close and not wearing our masks. But we always do wear the mask.
And you all share that one mask.
Well, no.
No. That's a little too close.
That's the
It's
mask.
a little too close for comfort.
Right.
It's that mask.
That
Well,
mask.
listen, it's so good to see you, Arnold. How long have we known each other?
Mike, we know each other over 50 years.
That's before Alison was born.
Oh, that's nice.
Well,
We're
almost.
getting close. We're getting very close.
Yeah, before she.
I would say that's about right with Allison, but you and I we were both very young at the time.
Yes, we're still young.
Yes, we are.
I heard something wonderful about Clint Eastwood. He was playing golf with a friend, and the friend asked him, he was in his, I think it was like 88th birthday. And his friend asked him, how do you stay so young? And he said, because I don't let the old man in.
I agree with that.
What a great line. So we're not going to let that old man in, my dear friend.
No, you won't and I won't, neither will Allie.
No. And you know, one of my first friend when I decided to start this YouTube channel was Norman Lear, and Norman turned 98 yesterday. So I think, and he's just the same as he was before. So I think Arnold, we got a good chance. We
We
got,
do.
we're still not there. Let's talk a little bit about
I
our
would.
friendship. Obviously, Arnold. We'll start with Arnold because Arnold is vice president. You're still vice president, I think, of Charles Rapp
I am.
Enterprises, right?
Right.
Does it still?
Yes.
Does Charles Rapp Enterprises still exist?
Absolutely. We still have an office in New York City. We have an office in the Catskills and here in Florida.
So, let's.
We're open in all three places currently.
But most of your, you know, efforts lately are down in Florida, right?
Yes, they are.
Because our beloved Catskills are not what they you the old what is the old grandmother? He ain't what he used to be. Uh,
It's quite true, Mike, but I want to still say, although many of the hotels are gone, even tomorrow night, we have 3 shows in the Catskills. So we're hoping for a little bit of a comeback. It will never be the way it was, but we're hoping that it's going to be rejuvenated. We now have a casino up there and several homeowners, which are still running Top Name Entertainment. And as I said, tomorrow night we have 3 shows. And unfortunately, in Florida, there are no shows at the present time. Nothing.
how ironic. And the 3 shows, despite Corona.
That is correct. We're running them at the pool area. We've put in proper lighting and sound, and we are running the shows on Saturday nights.
And social distancing and masks.
Yes, we are social distancing.
And the performers obviously can't perform with masks, but who is?
No, they're not performing in mass, but they're separated from the audience. And for example, 2 weeks ago, we had a tribute to the Drifters. We have a Michael Bublé show tomorrow night. We have the Guthrie Brothers and Simon and Garfunkel and the Everly set. So we're a little bit alive, not very much, but we're alive.
That is so, you know, encouraging because obviously in Florida, Alison, how long has it been since things were shut down?
My last show down here was with Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr., and it was March 14th.
Wow.
The entire tour, they did 2 shows. They had multiple shows. And they came in with their group, and 2 days in, the phones just were ringing on and off, you know, canceling left and right due to COVID.
And how is it affecting you know, the atmosphere, the feelings of all the residents that used to depend so much on entertainment? I remember how many, my gosh, for decades I've been coming down to you and filling up. I mean, we used to fill up 1,100 seat theaters with all
That's correct. Correct.
You know, the seniors down here, in the last few years, it's gotten younger. When I say younger, the average age has been, I'd say, like 65, 70. Whereas many years ago, you know, you came down to South Florida and you said, it's so old, it's very different right now. And the people that are older are petrified, really petrified of going out. I can't tell you in the last few weeks how many calls, they have contracts signed, they want to break the contracts, but postpone it for the following season so that everybody gets their chance and comes back to work. So they're looking forward to it, but they're afraid at this moment in time to really go through with anything for this year.
How do they, what do they do to replace those evenings?
There is nothing. Most of them, their clubhouses are closed.
They're playing pickleball. That is what the big activity of the day now is, pickleball.
The clubhouses have been closed down, which means there's no tennis, there's no golf, there's no pool. When everything started to ease up, what a lot of the venues were doing were taking lists, say maybe 20 people an hour, from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 20 people, and then they're thrown out. There are no chairs at the pool. There are no tables at the pool. If you want to sit on something, Bring your own chair because you're going to be leaving with it.
Is there any water in the pool?
Oh, there's water in the pool, yeah. But all the card rooms, which are always so full, you know, there's no cards. Tennis was limited down when they brought it back for the short time that they had tennis. One-on-one, there are no doubles.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say no golf, because here in California, although it's probably just as bad lately as Florida. Florida's catching up to California, but I'm able once a week to go. It's been probably about a month or 2 months now that we're able to play golf. I mean, we play with masks, each individual in each cart. You can't share a cart, but outdoors, people are very careful. We don't, you know, the flag stays. You don't pick up the flag when you're putting, and it's safe. So I'm surprised.
Well, let me say that it depends on which venue. Let me put it that way. Some of them are allowing them to do just what you're saying. One person to a golf cart. There can be no sharing of anything. Some places are doing that, but a lot of them have just stopped it completely.
Arnold, let's reminisce a little bit about the good old days. You started.
Sure.
How old were you when you started working in the Catskills?
15 and a half.
Wow. And how did you start?
My dad was in the business, and we had our own agency, and after school I'd go to the office, and I was just very interested in all the people that would come up and the bookings, and I learned the business that way. And after my dad opened a restaurant and a nightclub called The Living Room in New York City, I ran the business and met with Charlie Rapp, and I became a 25% partner in 1970 with Howard, my partner. He had 25%, I had 25%, and Charlie 50. Upon Charlie's death in 1974, we became equal partners, and we've been that way for 51 years at this present time. We've been together for 51 years.
It's like a marriage.
Just, you know, for those of people who are watching us who may not be familiar what we're talking about, the Catskill Mountains, you know, about, what, an hour and a half drive?
2 hours from New York City.
Yeah, it depended on, you know, when I remember as a kid, because I had my bar mitzvah in the Catskills.
Really?
Dog in White Sulphur Springs. There was I think it's still standing. And, you know, every star imaginable cut his chops in the Catskill Mountains, from Mel Brooks to, you know, to Sid Caesar, you name it. And also the Yiddish stars of the Yiddish theater. And so we would go up there and spend the summer at one of the hotels.
Right.
My father and mother, my mother actually, in 1936, spent the season at the President Hotel, and she was
in Swan Lake.
Right. And her partner was a young performer, budding talent named Daniel Kaminsky, who later became Danny Kaye. And they were together for a whole season and used to do plays together. And I think they did more than just play together, because
Really?
oh yeah, I met Danny in 1967, right after the Six-Day War, when the Israeli army, my commander, asked me to join Danny when he came to perform after the war for Israeli soldiers and wounded soldiers. And he looked at me in a very strange way when we first met. And I asked my mother later, you know, I finally met my idol, my hero, Danny, and we spent a month together. And I said, when he looked at me, when he first met me, he gave me a very strange look. He said to me, sweetheart, he could have been your father. So,
That's funny.
yeah, very true. So, you know, it's hard to describe what the Catskill Mountains were, not just for the entertainers, but
Right.
for the people who used to come up every summer, families, to the
That's
hotel,
correct.
the bungalow colonies, usually the wives and the children used to stay for the entire summer, and the husbands would drive by drive the weekend and drive
Yeah,
back to work.
they leave on Mondays, come up on Fridays.
And look, there was no air conditioning in those days, so the only way to get away from the heat and the humidity of New York was to go to the Catskills. And little by little, it started changing. And not to mention the food. The food.
3 meals a day, all you can eat, and then some.
It's not for now, it's for later.
And great entertainment. I remember Mousy Lawrence, God bless him. He had the routine about
A stomping ground.
the food where, people used to take, not only eat 3 meals a day, but at the end of the meal, they would take what was left on the table and take it, and somebody asked, why are you taking this? This is for later. For later.
It's not for now, it's for later. November 11th, 1983.
So
Downfalls of the Catskills too.
So tell me, Arnold, in your opinion, what happened?
Well, I think the world changed. People were traveling to foreign countries. The cruise lines got very big.
Atlantic City came up.
But Atlantic City didn't hurt them as much as people think. It was more going to Europe, going on these boats, having a wonderful time. And then the thing happened where husbands and wives had to work. In the beginning, the wives really stayed with the children. There were no second incomes. Well, things got expensive and the women had to work as well as the men. So therefore, they couldn't stay away for 10 weeks in a bungalow colony or go to a hotel for 4 weeks. The stays got shorter. Instead of a 10-day stay, they were having a 3-day stay. And you had to fill your place that many more times. People got spoiled. Air conditioning came in, we gave them air conditioning. They wanted golf courses, we gave them golf courses, tennis, everything possible at a rate that was a little bit too low to really make money. The Concord Hotel, which of course had 1,200 rooms and a dining room that could seat almost 3,000 and a nightclub that's almost 3,000. And entertainment was included in your room rate. There was no charge at any hotel for the entertainment. And we had some of the greatest stars, and during the week, some of the most fabulous performers who never became a star, but were household names. And that was the beginning of the end of the Catskills.
Well, also, in 1958, the jet age started.
Correct.
That also affected the travel industry. When people could get on a jet plane and be in the Bahamas in an hour and a half, that affected it as well.
Absolutely.
Allison,
Yes,
did you perform in the Catskills?
I did. When I was 12 years old, we had known about the, Charles Rapp name, and my mom took me up to the office.
Yes.
And when I was 12, my mother wanted Arnold to book me. And he said, bring her back when she's 18, and if she can hum, we'll book her for 45 minutes. And when I was 18,
she returned.
I returned.
You could hum when you were 12.
Kind of like a bad virus, right?
You could hum when you were 12. Why did he want you to wait till you were 18?
I didn't want to deal with the parents. That was the worst. I never liked to book kids.
My mother was very nice.
But you had to take the parents with the children, and that was a no-no for me.
But for me, honestly, what really got me involved in the performing aspect of it was Myrna Barry from the Barry Sisters. Myrna and Claire started me, and a comedian by the name of Lou Michelle. They had an organization called the Andrew Michelle Infant Survival Foundation. And they knew I loved to sing, and Myrna got me my first job. She came up to my house in the Catskills, sat down and played something for me, and then took me for an audition and said, just play dumb and follow along. And it was for the soundtrack of Pippi Longstocking and the South Seas. And I went in, and the gentleman conducting it was a man by the name of Jerry Graff. And I know you know his daughter, Eileen.
Of course, the Graff family.
And Jerry, I will never forget it. He said, okay, sweetheart, I was a kid. And he said, I'm going to sing and then you're going to sing. I'm going to sing again, you'll sing again. And then he just continued. So I continued with him and they let me, sing. And how did you know where you were going? I just heard it. And afterwards we went down to Chock full of Nuts coffee shop. And said, no matter what happens, good or bad, it could be because you're too tall, too short, too fat, too thin, but never give up. You can do this. Do not give up. And Jerry walked into the coffee shop shortly thereafter and said, it's between 3 girls. If they find the original that did the original soundtrack, you will be back up. And that is eventually what happened. And then from that, I went on to Pepsi Cola and Sesame Street doing soundtracks because I was a very unattractive child. So they didn't want to show me. They only wanted to hear me. It's a wonderful business we're in. Yeah, and then when I got out of University of Miami, my degree is from the School of Music. I went on and I started singing and I worked with an agent down here doing the cruise ships primarily, and I hated it. And then one thing turned into another, and when I turned 30, the gentleman that I took the job for, Ari Kaduri, we got along great, and I said, I'll give it 6 months. I won't take another job. And that's how it all started for me.
And actually, we met when we performed together.
That's right.
You were performing. I think
That's right.
you opened the show.
I was, to be exact, we met in New York. You were doing something for, I think it was the JCC. And I had always been a fan of yours because I remembered you from Barnum.
Wow, now you tell me?
Yeah, always. And I wanted to see you, live at this major performance. And it was you and many others. Tova Felcher was in it, a number of people. And I met you, and then you came down and you were working for the office, and that's how it all started.
So you were quite a peppy performer. I mean, you were great as a singer. And then at some point, I think you decided.
When I turned 30.
You turned 30 already?
No, could you imagine that? When I turned 30, my uncle, shut up. My uncle was the owner of Colony Records, Nappy. And he used to say to me, unless you have a hit, and not only a hit, but something to back it up with, he said, nothing is going to happen. He said, nothing will happen. He said, I'm telling you. He said, don't be stupid. Find something. He goes, you like the business? Find something in the business. And I was doing the ships, and you would go out for 2 or 3 weeks as a headliner performer, but it wasn't memorable. You weren't going. You made good money at the time, but you weren't going to become a star from doing that. And then I took this job for Ari, and I promised I would give it 6 months without taking anything. And I listened, and I did, and I grew in the business. And then he gave me a partnership, a piece of the business. So I'm very grateful. In the end, it was a good decision. And I'd like to think, coming from the performance aspect, and not always, Arnold, not always, but I'd like to think that when we do something down here, that I take into consideration what the artist would want, as well as what the business side of it would want. And I try to come up and be fair, and somewhere in between, mesh it all together and make it happen.
And I can attest to that because.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh, yeah. Every time you brought me down to perform there, not just me, we all get treated the way we would want others to treat us. And it reminds me of when 3 years ago, when I directed my first feature film in Israel, I was given a great compliment by one of the stars of the film, an Egyptian American actor who had just worked with Clint Eastwood on American Sniper, believe it or not. And he told me that next to Clint Eastwood, I treated him as a director, as professionally and as decent as he was treated by Clint Eastwood, which also comes from the fact that I come from the acting profession. So I, as an actor, know how I would like to be treated by a director, and that's how I treated my actors. So it works both ways. So you're right now, you guys are getting ready for this. Is it supposed to really hit hard, this hurricane?
Supposedly, it could either be tropical storm. It depends upon which way the wind goes. Right now, it's tropical storm / hurricane stage 1. So we're up in the air and everybody's out and about, and with the hysteria between the hysteria of the pandemic and trying to load up on groceries for the, for the storm, everyone's a little wild, yes.
And Arnold,
Yes, sir.
tell me, what do you do now? It's been like almost 6 months. What do you do to keep busy?
Well, I became Hotchkiss the domestic. I now, I shop, I cook, I do all of the chores. When Allison had a little foot operation, she was my guest for 2 weeks in our home, hopping along, and we served 2 meals a day. So it's almost like being in the Catskills.
Even laundry, Mike.
Even laundry. I never did this in my life. I never put a washing machine on. I never knew how. And now I do all of these things.
He walked into the bedroom and he said to me,
And I call all the clients as if they're running. I speak to all my people in the Catskills
that we
at
all do.
least once or twice a day, as well as the people here in Florida. And I'm waiting to return to work, and I will, and so will you, and everyone else. We're
will.
coming back. As a matter of fact,
You're looking at us as though we're crazy.
We're
Don't
not
look at us
crazy.
that way.
I'm booking a place in the Catskill called the Villa Roma. It's an Italian-American resort, open 52 weeks a year, and they're celebrating their 50th anniversary, 50 years of business, and we're running shows there on a regular basis, as I stated before. And the other 2 places, so we keep busy.
You know something?
I'm not bored, Mike. I'm not bored.
Years ago, South Florida used to have a bum rap. Not completely a bum rap. It was the type of, oh, you're going down there, you're going to be working in an assisted living home. But honestly, before we merged together,
Right.
Ari Kajuri, who you know very well, he was the king of this market. There's not even a doubt. Everybody knew that he brought in all of the name entertainers, semi-names, less recognizable names, but he always had a great deal of respect, and he branched out to the Latin world.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came in, I took over this end of it. And as the years progressed down here, one of the artists that we've had the pleasure of working with many, many times is Tony Orlando. And Tony is, you know Tony, he's like the mayor. I mean, if he were running for mayor, who wouldn't vote for Tony Orlando? And Tony one day sat down with us and he said, you know, it's not what we're used to doing. He said, but I like it. And he goes, I love you guys. He said, but I'm going to give you a little advice about how you can really improve it. And he said, you want the names to come in, you've got to deliver. You've got to give them better sound. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. But the sound and the writers were really, you can't write back on a contract, okay, we'll do it, you know, as best as it can be done. You can't do that. You have to give what they're asking for. And honest to God, it changed everything for us down here. I mean, the writers really are important, and it changed everything with the quality of entertainers that we started bringing in, and then we started bringing in groups, true?
That's true.
And everything has just changed so much. It really has. The only problem sometimes is that they want the names, and, you know, they need things to be able to balance out budgets and whatnot, and everything can't be a named show for them. And they're limited on what they take. You know, the market changed. Years ago, we had a client that used to do 140 shows. They're now down to 40. And that's a big difference.
Look, I can attest to that as well. The facilities
You used to do doubles.
are just amazing. The facilities themselves, the venues
Beautiful.
are,
Beautiful.
you know, state of the art. And it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to work there. And by the way, you mentioned Tony. I know Tony since the early 80s when I took over in 1981 for Barnum, the show that you mentioned before. Jim Dale was the star of Barnum. He won the Tony Award. And when Jim took a vacation for 2 weeks just before I came in, you know who took over for Jim? For
I do.
Series? Tony Orlando.
I do. And he loved it.
He loved it. But when you ask Tony about me, ask him, and you'll see what he'll tell you. I mean, we have a mutual admiration society. So I love him. He is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest natural talents that we've
Two
produced.
terrific guys. Why shouldn't it be a mutual admiration
Right,
society?
but not just that. He's a mensch. He's a real
Yes,
mensch. He's such
a
a
hundred
great,
percent,
great guy.
a
I
hundred
have
and fifty
somebody
percent.
here. Come here. I have somebody here that wants to say hello to you guys.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Siona.
Tiona.
Hi, Siona.
Hello.
Listen,
Manyanim.
Look how pretty. She looks so great. She
She
looks
always looks
younger
great.
than ever.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you.
It's
Wow.
true.
Listen.
It's true.
Do you feel like it's a nostalgia interview?
You know, I came in a little bit late, but it's so wonderful because I understand everything you're saying in terms of,
It's Hamish,
yeah,
right?
I love being with you in Florida, and I love what you do, and we miss it, and we miss Mike performing there. But
We miss it too.
what I miss is afterwards, because we love to socialize after the
Oh,
shows,
God.
you know?
Oysters,
And
yes.
Mike,
Sure,
everyone,
it's
every
unlimited
show
oil.
that you were ever in, every show, you were fabulous.
That's right.
And
Always a
thank you.
always a standing ovation, always a consummate performer wherever he was. We've never had anything but praises after you work, and you do your time, you make people feel happy.
happy.
That's
So
very
happy.
important.
It's mutual, because if I enjoy myself, they do as well. It's you know, it's a pleasure, especially with the generation that slowly is disappearing. And
Yes.
you know, I'm able to give them a bit of their the Hamishkeit, you know, what they remember from home. It's kind of a link from the older generation to the present generation, and there are not too many of us left.
No.
Unfortunately, my dear friend Brucey Adler used to do the same thing. Brucey was wonderful,
Love him.
and Five-ish Finger.
I love
Finkel, the
Five-ish.
fabulous Five-ish.
Loved him, yeah.
Everybody's favorite grandpa. He was great.
Do you know, Mike, I booked him in Lakewood, New Jersey. When I was 15, he was working in Jersey for us in Lakewood. And he was just even fabulous then. And until he became 71 years old and he got to his award, no one really knew Five-ish. He did the Yiddish theater, he did all of that, but he was not a household name. He became a household name at 70 years old, 77.
Yeah, he won the Emmy for Picket Fences.
Picket Fences, right.
Mike, and the other thing I must say to you, I'm sorry to interrupt. One of the other big changes in South Florida were musicians. Years ago, everybody came on those big stages for 1,200 people, self-contained, and they would be turning around and they'd be pressing a button. And the one thing that I loathe, and I really do
I
loathe,
hate it too.
is self-contained. I hate it. And so when I got on board in Ari's office and Ari offered me the job, I said one condition. At the time, I think you know Artie Zenzer and Jerry Fisher. Jerry, rest in peace, okay? They were friends of mine, and they said, don't worry, we have your back. We will help you through the first year, and if things don't work out, you know, however, financially, whatever it might be, we are your backup. Don't you worry about a thing. And we went in together, and that was the ultimatum I had given. I said, I've got to be able to do the contracting, because the contractor that we had was a lovely, lovely guy. I just didn't care for his idea of contracting, because if he had a club date for a bar mitzvah, he'd take the top piano player off
Away on a Saturday night.
and he'd put him where he needed him, and that didn't work for me.
And I know who you're talking about.
Okay, so may he rest in peace. He gave me my first band job as a singer. But the truth is, as a music student, I know that no matter how talented a person is standing on that stage, they need really solid backup. And I take a lot of pride in the musicians that we hire, because they walk into a rehearsal period, never knowing you, never seeing your charts, and they play well. And that's a big thing for us. And
you're also honoring your audiences by doing that, because these people have seen it all, and you can't fool them.
A lot of these people are transplanted New Yorkers.
Sure.
And the people that really were in the times, you know, when Tony, don't forget when Tony, I'm using Tony Orlando as a perfect example for this, because the first time Tony came down here, he was in his early 50s and he was with Branson. And I remember him saying to me, they're not going to know what I do. And I said, oh, don't worry. And that first night, every song was a hit. So that first night, people came backstage and they're pinching his face and they're giving him rugelach. And because I said, you might think they're older. I said, but don't forget. I said, when you had tie yellow ribbon in the 1970s, I said, these people were in their 40s and 50s. I said, so they know exactly what you're going to do and they get it. And it's correct. I mean, it's really correct thinking. So it's been a wonderful experience, truly. All around.
And it will, as you said, we're coming back and hopefully soon. So
Can't wait.
it's been a joy to meet this way. I'm going to ask you both a question that I asked all my friends.
Okay.
Well, we'll do it again.
We're done.
We'll do it again
Lies.
when Arnold learns how to work with Zoom. I have to explain that's why the two of you are sitting together, because Arnold has still not mastered the
I am still writing to my clients on yellow paper if you want to know the truth. And I'm not ashamed of it.
He does.
I call them, and if they ask me to see an act on a video, I say no. I'm still explaining what you do, and I have the personal touch. And if they want to go somewhere else, goodbye. But this is me, and I'm going to do that until the end of my career.
You got it. All right, I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm not, but okay. Go
I
ahead.
don't care what you're doing.
Oh, shut up. Go ahead.
That's why you work so well together.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. We have each other's back no matter what.
You
In
compliment.
the season, she's always angry at me because I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And I don't care.
Yeah.
All right, Allison, I'll ask you first.
Okay.
The ladies first, because I ask all my friends at the end of our chats or schmoozes. I'm going to ask you for the person, if I ask you who it was that inspired your life. Tell me who it would be.
Inspired my life professionally or personally?
Well, how about both? Personally and professionally.
Oh, that's a hard one, Mike. I'm going to say that as a kid, I knew I always wanted to sing and be in the business, and I was lucky enough to have family friends that were in the business. And I think I will always be very grateful to Myrna Barry, especially because she grabbed me as a kid. You know, her niece loved singing too, but her niece was terrific and very bright, and she's done very well for herself, but she wasn't a singer. And that was a really hard thing for her to do, to make that separation between blood and family or friend. And she schlepped me and took me and believed in me and made contacts for me and knew how much I wanted it. So, and I remember going to the Pines Hotel and sitting in the audience ringside and watching them perform, and they blended. They had a sound to the two of them that in today you can hear it, whether you appreciate it at my age or not. I always did, because my, you know, the musicality that I've shared, I've loved, and I've always respected talent. When everybody was out playing, I was listening to Liza Minnelli. So, you know, everything is relative. So I really have to say I owe a lot to Myrna Barry, because she really got me on the charts in this business. So I'm very grateful.
How about...
Strange as that might sound.
No. Hey, listen, you know, that's why everybody, you know, all my friends come up with, many of them come up with similar answers, personal people who inspire their lives, but sometimes it's the same individual who inspired their lives and their careers. So Arnold.
Yes, sir.
Who inspired you?
My parents, and of course, my parents only wanted me to go to college and become a teacher and doing this and that. And I had promised them if I couldn't make a living in 2 years, I would do that. And they supported me through those 2 years until I really got started in Lakewood, New Jersey, and then the Catskills. And my first commission in Lakewood, of course, was only $5. And after that, I was able to make it on my own. and I booked all the places in Lakewood, which was about 15 places, and then about 10 places in the Catskills to start with. So they were great for me, as my grandparents were as well. They inspired me, they encouraged me.
Mike, my parents also were really good to me. I want to see this shit, and I love them to death. So I just that. Okay, I'm done.
Well, my dear friends, it was a joy to be with you, to spend this time together. And the next time we should be hugging each other. I'll
We
do
will.
We hope so.
We will.
a virtual
Cannot wait.
hug. I give you a virtual hug.
We give you
We're
one back,
squeezing
and
back.
thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
And give your wife a hug for us.
It's my pleasure, and I leave you with my motto, which is Carpe Diem, seize the day. Right?
Absolutely.
Promise me you will do that. Seize
We
every.
will, and shalom.
Shalom.
And shalom.
Hugs. Bye.
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 Good job.